distracting me right now. Ooh, I talked right at the beginning of the recording. It just really gives me more to do when I edit, but I'm trying to minimize that.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
like, does this person even care about me with the freeze frame that you put?
I do it to both of us.
You
If I
do.
see something, I just grab it.
Oh, there's either you look good and I look strange, or I look good and you're mid something. Sometimes we both look good.
Well, that's part of it though, is that you have the human mind, the human eye is drawn to, a weird face. That's why you see all these stupid like, oh, I might even use that. There you go. We're going to use those. Perfect.
That, again, I look like some weird blow up.
45 seconds, right? Perfect. I know where to look.
Okay. All right. Woo! Happy Friday. And whenever you're listening to this, but it is Friday for us, and it has been a week.
Oof, it's been a week.
It's been a week.
It's been a week.
We're here. Let's start with something good. I'll kick off with, we are going to see Kings of Leon tonight.
Oh, nice. I
feel old because they're the opening act for Zach Bryan, who really neither Ben and I are like super into country. I do like some of his music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, the band that I've been dying to see is like the opening act. So
Kings of Leon, they're the ones who did what were the two big songs they had?
Sex on Fire was like their real big one.
And I've been running around, always looking down. That one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to sing that in the band I was in. That was a fun song to sing.
They're like so much of their stuff, and they have newer stuff out too. But they have at least 5 albums out.
Wow.
I don't know, but I love them. I've been wanting to see them forever, and snag tickets. It's up at MetLife. So they're box for the suite for watching the football. So they'll be a little bit further away than like I like normally being very close to the stage. But prices were good. And so that's just wrapping up a very full week. Last night, Ben messaged me. He's like, we're going to have so much fun tomorrow night. And I'm like, yes, I had to take my brain to future thoughts to be like, okay, just do it. How about you? What's going on? What's something good that's happening?
I got up at 5-ish this morning and saw the good news. I'd passed my final exam with FDN, so I have my oral exam booked. I took the soonest slot, which is the end of the month. I wish it was sooner, but that means I'll be ready to launch in August, which I'm super excited about.
That is awesome.
Stay tuned for more about that, everybody.
Congratulations. That's thank you. Huge on passing. And like you said, end of month, and you wish it was sooner, but it's the 18th. It's going to be here. Yeah. It's going to be right here.
It's 2 weeks.
Super cool. Well, today is an interesting day because today is World Listening Day and an inspiration for what we're going to talk about today. And I want to open with kind of an interesting little fact that I and I believe you certainly see in our day-to-day coaching. And that is 86% of people believe that they are good listeners, but only 11% of people actually feel heard.
Interesting.
So we're going to talk about different types of listening. We're going to talk about listening. Really, it's for yourself as much as it is a gift to someone else. Yeah. And I had a cool walk and talk with a new coach. She's doing neurodiversity coaching, and we're going to have her on the pod here. She presented this concept, and it threw all of my flags up and knee-jerk reactions. And I'm realizing for me personally, when I'm having that type of like knee-jerk reaction, like, this is not time for me to tune out. This is actually time for me to listen, keep my guard down, listen to what this person has to say. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it. But we can kind of start there. There's something called Luna, listen for understanding, not agreement. So you can be listening for understanding and you can be listening for agreement. So we'll get there. But before we do that, I want to just get kind of your intro on listening, World Listening Day. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would consider myself a good listener, purely from the fact that all of my careers have been around listening.
Mm-hmm.
Even music, I've got really good ears, can hear things in mixes and whatnot. But if I have to be honest, I definitely I don't translate that so much into my personal life. You and I were kind of talking about it yesterday when we were doing our pre-show prep because that's what we do at Alpha
That's
Flow.
what we do.
Um, and yeah, and I think you have to. I'm sure we're going to dive into it. You've got to be uh, different in how you approach each person and each
Yep.
situation with how you listen.
Yep.
And it's very easy to be, fully engaged when you're on a coaching call or a sales call, or if you're in a training session with a client. It's easy to be locked in and know how to listen. You're looking at the body language and all of that stuff. And I think there's partly because there's an emotional detachment to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're in personal relationships and you're having to listen, I think once the emotion comes in, it makes it a lot easier to kind of fall out of that, locked in focus you need to listen because it is a really important skill. And I think a good listener makes a good leader. Um, a good listener makes a good partner. And it's definitely a skill we could all, I think, improve on for sure. And there's many types of listening too, which I'm sure we'll
Absolutely.
talk about.
There's many types of listening. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about different people receive confirmation that you're listening differently. And I'll share a quick little story around. I was listening to Ben, and he was telling me I was going to be walking to this little bakery, and he was telling me what had been there before. And I mean, we were going deep down the path. So for him, what I did, was listening. I got up, I walked over to him, I put my arms around his waist, and I'm listening, but my brain is always like squirrel brain. So I'm listening and paying attention. I was able to regurgitate everything he was saying, but then my brain got fixated like, oh, I want to kiss him. And I thought it would have been rude just to kiss him in the middle of in a middle of a sentence. So I said, "Can I have a kiss?" So in my way, I was listening to him, I was paying attention, but I was kind of this is also what I wanted to do. And then he took it as like I didn't care what he had to say. It didn't feel like I cared about it. And there's always those moments in our life where we have one intention and we're so surprised when someone perceives or receives our intention like the opposite that we mean it to be.
Yeah.
So he kind of walked away, not angry, but like, I feel like maybe you don't care. And then I was like, wait, hold on a second. What could I have done differently? And that, because I need to know in that moment, like, what could I have done differently? And he was like, well, just indulge me. And I'm like, well, I was indulging you, but I was overwhelmed by wanting to give you a kiss. He's like, that's not the truth. And I'm like, it is. And he's like, well, all right, well, I never heard it that way. So he listened to me. I listened to him. I definitely don't think we're still on the same page, but I think understanding how your partner, whether it's a business partner or a romantic partner or your children, um, how they receive confirmation that you're listening. And we can break that down into different disc styles, which I think we should do
Yeah.
before we get off today. Um, but it's such a deep conversation. It's way more than just being present. And for me, some of my most challenging times are listening with my clients because my brain wants to go into solutions mode. And that's not what my job is during that time. So, really staying present is something I have to actively work on in my client relationships.
Yeah. And I mean, you talk about well, you, not you, but you being the plural you, we talk about active listening all the time.
Active
And
listening.
I'm not sure people really understand what that is,
Yeah.
you know? I think, how would you define it? I mean, to me, it's kind of just you're actively showing someone you're listening. So often,
Yeah.
they'll teach you repeat what they're saying, but say it in a different way so they know you're engaged and you're getting it. Because I think that's a big part of listening, much to your example just there of making sure you're showing the other person that you are listening so that
Yes.
they feel heard. Um,
I would call it
that's a big part of
conscious
it.
listening.
Yeah,
That's just the word that comes into my mind. Being really conscious of what my intentions are. And that starts with do I just need to listen to this person and understand what's going on in their world right now? Like, that's really where it's coming from, empathy and compassion and being willing to step into their world. It doesn't matter if I don't agree with them on what they're talking about, but am I willing to go into their brain a little bit? So that means I'm listening without judgment, without my own filters. I am literally letting them pull me into their world. And so that's listening
Yeah.
for understanding. Or am I listening for some type of debate or agreement, or I'm going to have to give some type of answer at the end of this? That's a different form of listening. Both are active, but it's, for me, the consciousness of my intention,
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah, and I don't think we can discount the listenees, which is
Mm-hmm.
funny because it's really just the speaker. Um, I think it's, sometimes you have to have the self-awareness to know if, am I being insecure here? You
Mm,
know, that I need this person to, you know, really make sure, really let me know that they're listening to me instead of, being, they're cooking dinner or they're
mm-hmm.
responding to a text, but they are listening.
Mm-hmm.
But unless that you've got their 100% focus,
Yeah.
you do not feel like they're listening to you. And how much of that is an insecurity on the talker's part, the
Yeah.
speaker's part, that they need that validation when they're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we have to focus on listening better, I think
Yes.
there is, some room for people to have a bit more social IQ, social EQ around
Yeah.
their part in the conversation too.
Absolutely. And timing is everything when it comes to deeper conversations.
Yeah,
So, you and I, naturally, high D, we like to just like attack head on and get it out and over with very, very quickly about what I've learned. And it's a great thing to think about. If I have something where I really need you to be really focused, and I also need to be focused on this conversation, maybe I want to talk about it right now just to handle it. But the kids are around and we have to whisper or go in a different room, or we're not,
yeah,
or a phone call is going to come in. It's just not the time. So I think it's okay to acknowledge, hey, we really need to talk about this. I need you to hear me on this. I know, like, right now it's just, I'm just going to get frustrated. If I can't have an expectation that I can be, this conversation is prioritized right now. So setting a time, like, can we talk about this tonight, or can we talk about this at 5 o'clock, or after we do this, can we circle back? Acknowledging that not every time is the right time to have certain conversations,
yeah.
and setting yourself up for a successful listening environment and a successful speaking environment.
Yeah, and that's something that I get frustrated, even though really it's me that's kind of in the wrong. If the kids or Amy are trying to get, they start talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm watching something or listening something or reading something, and my
Mm.
focus is on my iPad, for example. Typically when it happens, like end of the day, I just want to, you know, no, I don't, I'm done with all the noise around me. I just want to chill.
Yeah.
They'll start talking to me and then tell me, get pissed at me that I'm not listening.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, I know I need to work on being more present. That's something I really do struggle with. A
Yeah.
lot of it's, when I get stressed and when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I don't want to push that onto anybody else. I just kind of shut down and I'm
Mm-hmm.
in my own head. But I've also said to them, like, guys, if you want to talk to me, hey, Dad,
Yes.
get my attention, and then ask me the question or then tell me the thing.
Yes.
Because then otherwise, what happens is they get pissed at me, I get pissed at them, and we don't end up having the conversation, which
Nobody
is not good
wins.
for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of listening, and it's just really the art of conversation, and how, much like we talk about in all realms of life of kind of setting the boundaries, setting expectations, we need to do it in conversation too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, that seems to be a theme that I keep coming back to as I'm thinking about it and talking it out. It's just, yes, it's World Listening Day, but I think as much of it is on the other person speaking as much as it is on the listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not one person's responsibility. And, your responsibility is how you show up. Your responsibility is in
Yeah.
asking yourself what your intention are. Your responsibility is also like what you just said. Like, hey, I understand you want to talk to me. I need 20 minutes to get this done. Can we circle back in 20 minutes, or do you really need me right now? Well, no,
Yeah.
the stove is on fire. Okay, you need me right now. Or just people knowing that you're going to re-pick up something. Um, you have to ask for that space. I'll have leaders tell me, like, I have an open door policy, right? But I know there's these certain people, they come in there that they all they want to do is talk, talk, talk. So I just start looking at my computer, and like I start doing work because they want them to get the hint to leave. But instead, the person that's at the door who kind of barged in anyway, because there's an open door policy, is like,
Yeah.
well, my boss is not paying attention to me. They don't even care. They just mid sentence started doing work. So it's like you don't actually benefit someone by moving your attention and hoping that they get the hint. And you're really better off saying, that you either have to end the conversation or that you're not able to listen at full capacity at that time. And there's so much
Yeah.
noise. There's so much noise. We are so used to listening with 20 other inputs going on that you and we will talk about radical ownership. It's almost like radical listening is becoming something that
Oh
is
yeah.
more and more rare. So really, really being intentional. Like if you say yes to listening to someone, um, being as conscious of a listener as possible.
Well, it's interesting you bring up that noise. It
Mm,
reminded me of, I haven't worked in a big box gym in 10 years now, but
mm,
uh, when I was at the last one I was at, working on Saturday mornings, I would just be exhausted by the end of, it was like, I'd work there from like 7 till 1,
mhm.
and I was just exhausted. And then it took me a little while, and I realized it's because on Saturday mornings, there's so many more people there, so much more noise, so much more activity going on, and your brain having to focus on that one person, that one conversation when, as you said, all these inputs and noise flying around. It's exhausting.
Yeah. And then you get
Um,
home to your family who's been
yeah,
waiting for you to come home all day, and you're on overload already. Like there's nothing left.
yeah, yeah. No, so I think that's one great tip that we could give everybody is quiet the noise.
Hmm.
One thing I'm really big on is if we go out to eat, I always have my phone turned over on the table so I don't
Yes.
get distracted.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of my vices. I'm on my phone a lot, but that's one effort I really do make. Is if I'm going to be one, or even just if we go for coffee and stuff, you and I will do our best not to, if we're working at the coffee shop or something, you and
Yeah.
I do our best not to engage with any notifications that are coming in and flying around.
Yeah.
So just reducing that noise and maybe finding a new environment to have that important conversation.
Yeah.
Don't do it at home where there's things to do and other people to interact with. Go for a walk. And I think that's perhaps why going for walks is one of
Yeah.
the best, it's my favorite time to talk to people.
Yes. It's also going for walks, especially around difficult conversations,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally. Somewhere we've got it, like we've got to sit across from the person and like make this eye contact to show that we're listening. And that's actually not true. Walking, especially when children or someone that's maybe you just show up more aggressively than they do when you're walking and moving together but looking forward, and it's not that intense like stare
Yeah.
down. Like when you stare down people in the wild, it's like you don't stare at a dog because that's like, come on, bring it, bro. So why my dog is having a dream is in the background here.
Speaking of dogs,
um
yeah.
Walking, talking and listening, because we're very capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. We can walk and listen at the same time. Is a really, really great tool when you're having a difficult conversation, especially keeping your body moving, because that has to do with our nervous system as well.
Yeah.
So, not being in like a stuck state, sitting in a chair, confined somewhere, keeping the body flowing actually helps keep your brain and your thoughts flowing too.
Yeah. And I think, body language is a huge thing with listening too, right? It's not just what we're doing with the ears, it's what we're doing with the rest of our bodies.
Hmm.
The engagement with your eyes and, I've always had a hard time with the folded arms. Like I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
It's just comfortable. It's not because I'm trying to be closed off or anything.
Yeah.
But if people go back and watch some of these episodes, they'll notice my head's always tilted to the side. I learned
Mm-hmm.
this a while ago, from a body language expert. If you expose your neck,
Mm-hmm.
even the animal kingdom, it's really where it comes from, right? You're showing someone you trust them because it's the most vulnerable part that will
Yeah.
kill you.
Yep.
Um, so I always have my head tilted to the side just so people know that I'm not being, I trust them. We can
Yep.
have an open dialogue. Um, there's nothing worse trying to talk to someone where they're just sat up straight and you know it's awful. So body language is a huge, huge thing.
We're
And it
basically
makes the other
saying, look at the
person,
animal kingdom.
yeah, really. But that's why I think it's so important because listening is not, like I said, it's not just about what you do between, with your two ears.
Yeah.
So much more to it.
You just made me think about anytime you're facilitating or speaking in front of a big group, speaking is a little different if you're just speaking and there's no intention of audience participation. Still, then I'll tend to hone in on a few people in the room. They're like, their eyes are more lit up, they're smiling, they're nodding, even though they know that there's not going to be a verbal engagement. Like I can see they're engaged in it. So I'll kind of tune into those people. But facilitating, I have literally, you're standing up there in front of a room. I had someone asleep and actively falling asleep front row, like off to my right, where he actually, like, I stepped in a couple of times kind of fast and startled him, like woke up in a start. That really messes with your mind when you are presenting and
Yeah.
facilitating and someone is falling asleep. Now, I know I learned later there was a medical reason for it. But then you're looking at the rest of the room that's like super engaged and nodding and taking notes and just giving all of the indications that they're there with you. And so,
That's
go ahead.
so funny you bring up nodding because that's one of my tricks. So just make sure I'm nodding and looking at
Yep.
the amount, and you know when people are trying to engage with you because they keep looking at you when they're
Mm-hmm.
talking, if it's in a
Mm-hmm.
group. And
Mm-hmm.
half the time I'm sat there nodding, thinking, I am not fucking listening to a word you're saying, but I'm making sure you think I am. But
I
that
am being
and
a
that's what I'm
good
saying though.
listener.
Like it can be deceiving, and it's not just about how you're listening. It's all these things play into it.
Well, the head nod is a great, let's put a little pinpoint here. If you happen to know anyone in your life is a high S, if we're talking about disc, I call it the high S head nod. What happens is high S's, they really like security, they like systems, they like to be able to ask questions for clarification. So do high C's. Once they realize either they're not going to make any headway with you, if they have a lower D, meaning they don't really want to have confrontation, what will happen is that they will start to do what I call the high S head nod. They will start nodding their head, yes, like they're in agreement with you, when meanwhile they're not in agreement at all. They just really want to get away from you. And the fastest way for them to do that is pretend like they agree. You part
Yeah.
ways. The person speaking thinks, okay, great. They were nodding their head, acknowledging, saying, yes, they understand. We're in agreement. The high S is like, let me just get out of here and go do this the way that I know how to do it. And I'm just going to do my own thing. Then they do that. And then it comes back together again. Like, well, why did you go do it the same way I just told you not to do it? Because you were nodding your head, but they were never in agreement. So I always say, be careful of the high S head nod. And you have to ask for clarity. Like, I see you nodding your head. Yes. Are you in agreement with me?
Yeah.
Or did I lose you somewhere? Or are there other questions? You have to ask those questions, because otherwise one person's like, okay, great. They agree with me. They understand me. Fantastic. The other person's like, get me away from this person. I have no intention of doing what they just told me. And then that's, of course, where we have breakdown in relationships. But
Yeah. And a good amount of head nodding is good. Like
mhm,
it does help facilitate the conversation.
yes.
And it's funny, I because I've been doing podcasting for so long, I've had the chance to watch myself a lot, which is of course horrifying for everybody. But it's given me a lot of good input on how I am during conversations. And I did when I first started out, I noticed I was nodding my head a lot.
Mhm.
And there's that particular kind of head nod people do when you know that they just want the other person to shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like and I saw this on someone's podcast the other day, and I'm going to make sure I mention it to them. Just the whole time the other person was talking, just nodding their head. It's almost like they're, you can tell they're trying to get to the end of the other person's
please
point.
be done with this. Yes.
So yeah, that's quite funny.
Well, that's where the head nod, when you want someone to get to the point, sometimes we'll do a head nod because you can't go like this. Like, come on. So we know we can't do that gesture and not be rude. So a similar gesture is the head nod. Like you are almost trying to propel them forward to the point with your own body language.
Yeah. And we talked about it yesterday. I really do. I just want to drive home the point of I feel like there's equal responsibility in a conversation for the speaker and the listener.
Yep.
For the speaker, let the person know, going back to your helped, hugged and heard?
Helped, heard, or hugged, yeah.
Yeah. Let them know. Like, hey, I don't want you to do anything right now. I just got to get this on my chest.
Yep.
Or I just want to tell you something. I just want to hug.
Yep.
That's equally, it shouldn't be on the other person to guess. There should be a middle ground.
But if you're trained or you now have this information, and since you just listened to this, you have the information of when you're starting a conversation or someone starts talking to you, asking them, hey, do you need me to actually help you solve something right now? Or you just need me to listen to you, or just need me to listen and give you a hug? Now you know that, and you can teach people that, because most people just don't think about the responsibility of verbal conversations.
Yeah.
And we wanted to point this out too. It is your responsibility to make sure that you are in rooms around people, listening to subjects, what's on television, of things that you actually do want to be taking into your consciousness, right? It's like if you're finding yourself drained all the time and you're kind of tuning out and just not wanting to listen, well, what kind of environments do you keep putting yourself in?
Yeah.
So really being aware, like, who is getting access to your time, energy, and attention, to your listening? You have control over that.
I was about to go there as well. Just, is it, I don't want to sound like I'm an English miserable bastard, but like, why should I have the responsibility of listening to what you're saying? I was talking yesterday about the people who just, they have this lack of self-awareness. They just keep talking to you about stuff, even though, you're not showing any kind of interest or engagement with them, and they just don't stop.
Yeah.
Oh, check this out, or did you hear about this?
People that's
desperate. Why I keep. Yeah, but that's why I keep going back to, if like,
feel important and significant.
Yeah.
They are.
And there's so many blowhards.
I know. There's emotional intelligence there. There's social there. Honestly, some of the most brilliant people, brilliant, intelligent people, I have a very hard time having conversations because I tend to find they don't talk at all. Or once they turn it on, it's like, whoa, it's almost not possible to keep up with them or their thought process. And they're saying very smart, intelligent things, but they don't know how to slow it down or have back and forth conversation. I don't know. I'm thinking of someone that I really respect and admire, and it's just, either they're on off or once they turn on, but it's almost like I can't even deal with what comes.
That's funny. I feel like the people that talk the most are the people who aren't the smartest, and to your point, they're talking that much to kind of validate how smart they think they are. They want you to think that they're smart too.
Sure.
I know quite a few people like that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel the need, which it's hilarious me saying this because I have a fucking podcast and it's, my fourth one. So clearly I like talking.
All we do is talk.
But I probably offer up like 10% of anything I know, even in fields like health and fitness, just because I don't feel the need to let you know how much I know about it. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people like that. And again, it's like, why should I give you my energy listening to
Yeah.
this shit just so you can feel like you're so high and mighty?
Let me repackage what I just said, because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I think I want to do this more as
You don't
a
want to fall into my miserable bastard uh,
no. I because I
bucket.
get it. Like, you're right. Like, there's just people that just spew nonsense and they just
Yeah.
like being heard, right? And I think more of my point was, when you become a really good listener, people that don't feel heard in this world, when they have an opportunity to connect with you and they feel heard, it becomes so powerful that they will almost latch onto you,
Hmm.
because they're not used to it. And when they feel that feeling, it's such a gift to feel heard and understood, that I'm just saying, when you become a phenomenal listener, you do have to kind of, I don't want to say protect yourself, but have a realization that part of that might become with responsibility of just letting somebody, like Ben says, indulge me. Now, I love him. I'm going to always indulge him. But like a stranger or someone I don't know really well, I don't owe them anything. But when I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm a good listener, and as a human to a human, if I can give this gift to this person to allow them to feel heard, then I'm going to do that. But then I had to be careful about how much that person is coming to me, especially if they should be going to other people and they start to utilize you as the listener to then flow information through. Like, that can also happen. But it's very powerful when you are a good listener. You will attract information and extract information from people that you never imagined. So it does become a very big superpower that you have to always make sure that your intentions are good and for the benefit of everyone.
Yeah. And I will say, I really want to get onto the disc stuff.
Yeah.
But I've always found in sales, it's more what you do with your ears than what you do with your mouth
Hmm.
when you're selling. And always when I get to the close, say what you got to say and shut the fuck up. Don't there were times I remember at the gym I'd be standing there looking across the front desk with someone with
Hmm.
this like 20-second silence.
Yep.
It's always whoever speaks first is going to lose the deal.
Yep.
Um, and it really is the case because you can't understand people, you can't have empathy for people if you're not actually listening to what they're saying. So as much as I'm ranting and raving about people who speak too much, it really is important to listen. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important about the disc stuff that we're about to talk about is, we all have different personalities that we don't naturally mesh with other people who have different personality traits, right?
Hmm.
So, two high Ds, like when we're talking to each other, we know just get to the point, and you and I are gonna. There's no fluff or anything like that. But
Yeah.
again, I'm sure that's quite ironic. People probably think the majority of our podcast is fluff, but then there are people in our lives that aren't high Ds, so
Yeah.
we do have to adapt how we listen to them, and but people also have to adapt to you too.
Yes.
It's not a one-way street.
And it's not adapting your morals, your integrity, your beliefs. All it is bending how you deliver and receive information.
Yeah.
I'll have leaders be like, "Well, I'm not changing. Why should I change? To accommodate them? You're not changing. You are still who you are.
Adapting.
Um, Ultimately, this is how you get your desired outcome. Yes, the real win is that the other person feels heard and understood, but the truth is that it's a form of manipulation when you know any type of behavioral style or when you're really phenomenal at communicating. I mean, that's a whole other, which I really don't know much about, but neurolinguistic programming. I'm thinking of like magicians that aren't necessarily magicians, they're mentalists.
Yeah.
These are people that they don't know you. You're off the street. That is the power of the ability to communicate and influence. That you can literally take a stranger and get inside their brain and like blow their mind in 1 minute. Um, all right, let's jump into DISC. So DISC is a behavioral assessment. If you're not familiar with it, we talk about it all the time. We have access to it. If you would like to take your DISC assessment, reach out to us. We'll probably make some type of more formal way to do that, but it's a very, very cool tool. And it's just a tool. And if you don't use
Can't
it,
they do it on
then
your website?
actually, yes, I'm changing some things in there. But if you go to
Right.
Alpha One, that's the number one coaching.com, and send me a note there, I will reach out to you. We all have different styles, and we're kind of one way naturally, and then we make adaptations depending on our work environment. But we're just going to talk about naturally right now. So there's D, I, S, and C. D is very fast moving and task focused. I is very fast moving and people focus. I am a high I, high D. And over the years, it has swapped high D, high I, goes back and forth. High S is people focused and slower moving. And a high C is task focused and slower moving. So you've got 2 that are fast moving, 2 that are slower moving, 2 that are task focused, 2 that are people focused. Now, you're not just one, you're a mix of all of them. Some of us are more on the more extremes. I happen to show up on a more extreme on the chart, where my D and my I are in the 90s and my compliance is like a 6. So if we take that and we start talking about how people acknowledge, understand that we're listening to them, when you're talking to a high D, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone is what we'll say. But with a high D, their biggest fear is being taken advantage of and their time being wasted. So when you're listening to a high D, really you just want to, again, no fluff. You want to reiterate like a recap of what they just said and then what you're going to take action on. Like that's what the D wants to know. I know that you understood. If you can break it down into a quick recap and then tell me what you're going to go do, that's a win. Now, a high I, people focused, fast moving, right? Lots of hands, talk fast. Biggest fear is rejection. So if you are listening to a high I and you are completely expressionless, you might think like, oh, I am intensely listening. I'm not going to even move a muscle. I'm just listening so good and so intently. I'm consciously listening. The high I is like, there's no emotion. There's no expression. You're not validating anything I'm saying. You're not agreeing with me. I'm coming with all this enthusiasm and you're like deadpan.
Yeah.
So that feels like rejection. So with a high I, you want to kind of mirror their enthusiasm. You'd be like, oh, I'm so excited to go do this. Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited too. You can do it in the opposite way. I used to use this in sales when I was calling on expireds for real estate listings. You call an expired the morning of the expiration. They've already had 20 agents call them. They pick up the phone. Hello? Hey, it's Tara from eXp Realty. I've already had 20 realtors call me this morning. I'm like, God, that sounds horrible. Do you want me to get that to stop? You're mirroring that back. Now, I don't know if they were a high I, but a high I, you've got to validate. And that's just going to be kind of mirroring where their enthusiasm is and like, great idea. Love that idea. Let's explore that idea. High S, now we're going into the slower paced. When I'm talking to a high S, I'm going to slow down the cadence of my speech. And for high S's, they really fear loss of security. So systems are really important for them. Being able to have enough time is really important to them. So if a high S is in your life and they're communicating with you and you're a high D and you're like, I gotta go. I don't want to listen to all this. Just tell me the highlights. They can't tell you just the highlights. They need to make sure that you understand all of the things. And they need enough time to get it out. And if you rush them, they will start to stutter. They will start to kind of, fall over their own words. They get flustered and they'll probably just give up or retreat. So making sure that you have the time and that you can be calm in listening to them is key. And like letting them know reassurance stuff. Like that sounds like a great plan. Or I love that system. Or let's explore how we could, make that work for everyone because they're also focused on people. Okay, high C, slow moving and task focused. High C, biggest fear is being wrong. And not like, oh, I don't ever want to be wrong. I'm right all the time. They don't want to give incorrect information.
Yeah.
So high C's love to ask questions, which can feel like a pain in the ass to a high D. Like, why are you asking me so many damn questions? Just go do it. The high C is like, I need to gather as much information as I possibly can before I can make a decision. Because when I put the information out there, I need to feel like it is 100% right that I'm giving you the best information that I can. So with high C's, you really, if you can summarize what they said really clearly, that helps them feel understood. And also ask clarifying questions to a high C. They're very happy to answer any questions that you might have about what they said, because they probably have a ton of research on it and they can back it up, 10 levels deep. But really just a clear summary and asking clarifying questions. That's like, okay, this person cares. This person is hearing me. If you
Yep.
did that with a high D, they'd be annoyed. So it's like how you win with one person on a really high level is how you lose with another person on a really deep level. So being able to bend and pick up on nuances on where someone falls on the disc is like a superpower. And that really can just be from the language that they use, how quickly or slowly they speak. Do they talk about feelings a lot, or they talk about tasks and tactics a lot? You can start to understand naturally where they fall.
Yeah. But I just keep coming back to you got to meet in the middle though. Like a high D and a high S. Yes, you got to show, you got to, give them comfort so that they know, but like at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, the other person has to know they can't ask that many questions to a high D because they're not
Right.
going to listen.
Right.
So there is a meeting in the middle.
So and there's like an ideal world with that, right? But when it comes down to leadership, love,
Yeah.
if you are equipped with this information and now you are, it is your responsibility to show up in the best way that you can, even if the other person isn't.
But educate them. Now you
Yes.
know this, you can
Yes.
tell them your type of listening so
Mm-hmm.
that then when they're talking to you, and
Mm-hmm.
then vice versa, when you're talking to them, you have to understand their listening. So
Yes.
there's, a meeting in the middle.
It's a choice. It's a
Yeah.
choice. And if that person is not learning and that person is not making some bends for you, then you have to make a choice of, do I keep this person around me or not?
Yeah.
And children are a whole other
Yes.
conversation.
Yes, they are.
Um, we could just talk about this very quickly. Whether it's we've talked about where like maybe I'm on stage and I end a talk, or I will be kneeling on stage with people that come up to the stage. Like getting down to eye level with someone
Hmm.
is so important, and it's even more important with children. Um, when a child is going into a reaction, into an emotion, instead of like standing over them, like I immediately will drop down to their level. If I can, if it's appropriate, I will take their hand. I will look at them. It's not a judgment of like whatever is coming out. If it's anger, if it's crying, it is a look at them. What is going on in your world right now? What do you need?
Yeah.
I'm not
That's a
going to
big one.
what?
That's a big one. And I can't believe we got to the end to talk about it. Touch is a huge
Yes.
part of listening.
Yes.
Even if you just put your hand on someone's back
Hmm.
while they're talking to you, they feel heard because it
Yeah.
lets them know that you're engaged somehow.
Unless they're a high C, and high Cs don't typically like to be touched by people they don't know. So if you go and touch a high
Yeah.
C, they're going to be like, why is this person even a foot away from me right now? But yes, yes, touch.
Yeah.
Well, so much is unspoken, right? And that's another, I mean, we're just running out of time, but active, conscious listening, it's really listening for more of what's not being said versus what's being said.
Yeah. Exactly.
If I'm not coaching in person, I pretty much will do no calls, just phone calls. I will for maintenance stuff or if my client needs something in like a between session. But I have to have that visual because I can hear them pause, But are they pausing and smiling? Are they pausing and looking down to the left? Are they going back into the past? Are they looking up and to the right? Are they thinking about something future? Are they frowning? Are they dropping their head down? At that moment, if I only hear them pause on the phone, I don't have all the important information. But if I hear them pause and then I see them like drop their head, not to the side, just drop it down like they're going to like shame or guilt, right in that
Hmm.
moment, I can go right there. Like, what's going on? What's coming up for you right there? What was that pause?
Yeah.
And that's the unsaid stuff.
Yeah. And to that point, you often have to listen while you speak,
Mm.
right? You have to listen to
Mm.
what's not being said while you're speaking. And I think that gives you the self-awareness of how to talk, when to stop.
Yeah. Oh, well, and I like that, especially since we just talked about listening being like observing. So
Yeah.
observing the other person's response and reactions, not only for confirmation that they're hearing us, but where are they lighting up, right? And that's like, I think, a natural sales ability. You start to go down a lot of different paths, and then you can see where someone really starts to light up. And then as a really
Yep.
good salesperson, you start leaning into that, like, oh, okay, cool. Let me go down this path. I've just touched on something. Um, so today, World Listening Day. We are talking about being a active, conscious listener. You're talking about the responsibility of, not only being a good listener, but a good listenee. How did we put that?
Yeah. Listen to me.
A speaker. Um, we might not be as good as we think we are because,
Yeah.
again, it was Oscar Trimboli's deep listening research. 86% of us would say, "Hey, we're good listeners," but only 11% of people feel heard. And that's a big gap. It's a
Yeah.
big gap.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that the biggest point to me with all of this is, yeah, it's World Listening Day, but I think it was the name of one of our early episodes that,
Mhm.
conversation is really a dance. It's,
Mm.
listening, speaking, there's everybody plays a role. It's not just on the person to sit there and absorb everything you're spitting at them.
Yeah.
You've got to both play a role in it.
I think a cool challenge for everyone, and I'm challenged with this almost daily, is listen intentionally without interrupting, without trying to fix it, without trying to think about your response. Like, just be consciously present there and really let that person take you into their world.
Yeah.
Um, it is harder than you think it might be, and you may realize that it's just not something that you've been doing, and you have to practice it.
Yeah.
You have to
Sure.
practice it. And just because there's a silence, and I am so guilty of this, especially on the podcast, where like he's taking a deep breath. Okay, I could say something now. Um, you said it, like, let the silence do the heavy lifting. Like, we don't have to fill all the voids. And there's so much said in the void, but some of the most brilliant, beautiful, true, deep expressions are the things that come out of someone's mouth after that silence.
Yeah.
So don't miss that. And it's okay to hold that space.
Sure is. Sure is.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I was just listening and waiting for you to get to your outro.
Well, let's do it then. So happy World Listening Day, or whatever day you're listening to this. Take our challenge. Sit in active and conscious listening. Don't interrupt. Just listen for empathy and to understand where that other person is coming from. Have fun with it. Until next time, friends. Bye for now.